With Disney's 90s animation renaissance booming, but a CEO determined to bring the parks to the people no matter the cost, the Disney decade was teetering on the brink of becoming the Disney downfall. One project at the center of its troubles, a $100 million multi-story interactive theme park called DisneyQuest. A virtual experience decades ahead of its time, greenlit for not one, but 4 locations nationwide. Would this be a double jump into the 21st century of themed entertainment, or would it be game over for any chance at a regional Disney park? This is the history and downfall of DisneyQuest. Throughout the late 80s and 90s, Disney saw plenty of peaks and valleys when it came to the critical acclaim and financial success of their non-studio projects. From a failed fast food chain to a theme park in Paris, horror-based attractions and anniversary celebrations, as the 20th century was coming to an end, so was the Walt Disney Company's guaranteed magic. It's during this time that Disney CEO Michael Eisner was pushing for a higher Disney presence outside of Florida and California. With an unsuccessful attempt at a third United States resort property in Virginia, and countless off-the-wall ideas like converting a decommissioned battleship into a full-scale theme park at sea. Yes, this was a real idea, look it up. It was very clear that there had to be a better way for Disney to focus their efforts on these side projects. In 1996, Eisner spearheaded the opening of a subsidiary of the company called Disney Regional Entertainment. This division's main initiative was to expand the Disney brand, but more specifically, bringing a taste of the Disney parks experience to the people. Disney Regional Entertainment kicked off their tenure with 3 big projects. 1. ESPN Zone, a themed restaurant similar to Hard Rock Cafe, but make it sports. 2. Club Disney, a Disney-fied Chuck E. Cheese style play place/restaurant. And 3. DisneyQuest. By far the most ambitious of these 3 ideas, Disney would plant DisneyQuest's flagship location on the west side of Disney World's downtown Disney. In June of 1998, DisneyQuest would open to the general public. It was touted as a high-tech indoor recreation site with computer-based virtual reality games, which intrigued guests of all ages, especially with the rise of the video game industry at the time. Why am I recording this portion of the video from this exact spot here at Disney Springs? Some of you think this building was DisneyQuest. It wasn't. They completely demolished that sucker back in 2017. Then how come it looks like the same building? Because someone thought Disney fans would want a photo op with a wax figure of the NBA commissioner Adam Silver. That's why. But yes, this was the former spot of the first DisneyQuest, and there's no denying it. This place was really cool back in the day. Once inside this windowless building, guests would find themselves in the lobby, which roughly resembles the same aesthetic of most Disney stores at the time. On the wall opposite the entrance were not 2 elevators, but 2 cyberlators, where your host, the genie from Aladdin, would take you to the make-believe land of Ventureport. Ventureport took up the top 3 floors of the DisneyQuest building. This would act as the central hub of the indoor park, with portals to each, quote, world that would surround the atrium. Even on the park map, they were insistent that these were not lands, they were worlds. Sound familiar? The centerpiece of Ventureport, a large late 90s attempt at a cyberpunk telescope? I'm not 100% sure exactly what this was. The first of these worlds was Explore Zone, featuring probably the most iconic attractions DisneyQuest had to offer. Aladdin's Magical Carpet Ride, a virtual reality fly-through of Agrabah, equipped with a 2-foot-long headset, N64 quality graphics, and a stationary seat. To best explain how this attraction works, let me throw it to Mr. Eisner.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner. I'm here in the virtual reality studio where Disney Imagineers are creating a whole new world of storytelling. Tiny TV screens inside this headset actually allow you to step into the world of Aladdin on a magic carpet ride.
Also in the Explore Zone was the virtual Jungle Cruise, which from what I remember had little to nothing to do with the Jungle Cruise ride other than the fact that you were on a boat in water. This river raft simulator took guests back to the age of dinosaurs, and oddly enough had a tie-in with a popular live-action Disney movie from the 90s, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where inventor Wayne Szalinski would transport guests to the prehistoric era. Upon arriving, Szalinski would drop his time machine gizmo in the river and redirected the mission from a casual river cruise to a chase after the lost equipment. There was also a game called Hercules in the Underworld, which was really difficult to find any footage of since it closed just 2 years into its run here in Florida. Its replacement, Pirates of the Caribbean: Battle for Buccaneer Gold, a 6-person team-based shooter that, if you can't tell from these clips, used the same cannon shooter and tracking technology we would later see on Toy Story Midway Mania across Disney parks worldwide. Next, we move back to Ventureport and into Score Zone. Score Zone would take up the entire left half of floors 3, 4, and 5. Granted, a large portion of this area was allocated to traditional arcade cabinet games, pinball machines, and skee-ball. But what really stood out here was the Mighty Ducks game. Other than a brief name-drop mention during the god-awful retheme of the Tiki Room in 1998 and a building at the All-Star Movies Resort, this was one of the first times that the Mighty Ducks would make an appearance in any facet at the Disney parks. Considering how crazy I was about the Ducks as a kid, it was clearly going to be my favorite. In Mighty Ducks Pinball Slam, you would become the pinball. By rocking your platform back and forth, you'd control your corresponding ball on the big screen. The end goal was to collect the most points. Also in Score Zone was Ride the Comics, another 1998 VR game that probably should have closed shortly after opening, and a game based off of the very short-lived Tomorrowland ride, Alien Encounter. For those who don't know, this was amidst an era where Michael Eisner was convinced that Disney needed to seem cool to the teenage crowd. In doing so, he created a handful of thrill-based attractions, some that went a little too far. Maybe this DisneyQuest game was made to fill the cool for teenagers demo at the indoor theme park, or maybe to recoup the loss of the property knowing that the ride wouldn't last much longer. But this one was a choice for sure. Next, we blast off to Infinity and Beyond in Replay Zone's only major draw outside of standard arcade games, Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters. For an attraction with the same name as a shooter ride in Tomorrowland at Disneyland, you'd expect a pretty similar experience. This was much closer to an episode of that BattleBots show on Discovery Channel, but much less intense. A combination of bumper cars and dodgeball sounded great on paper, but in the world of liabilities and lawsuits, it became a slow-paced traffic jam in plexiglass boxes. It was another really neat concept, and I guess something like this was needed to avoid having every big attraction be a screen ride. Last but not least, we head back down to floor 2 to Create Zone. Here is where guests could exercise their creative side while they learn to animate Disney characters, create toys you might see in a future Toy Story, or design their own roller coaster in CyberSpace Mountain,
where you can design a roller coaster that's out of this world.
Possibly the most popular ride in the whole complex, CyberSpace Mountain had 8 two-person pods that rotated a full 360 degrees to simulate all the motions of a roller coaster you and your partner just designed. I unfortunately did not meet the height requirements for CyberSpace Mountain in the year 2001, but was able to step inside one of these simulators a few years back at IAAPA Expo.
Oh my gosh.
After hours of high-energy gameplay, of course guests would need somewhere to eat. What Disney-themed restaurants from the parks would make its way to DisneyQuest? Was it Cosmic Rays? The Electric Umbrella? Neither. It was a Cheesecake Factory Express. Because nothing says Disney theming like a display case full of day-old cheesecake. In total, DisneyQuest was about a 2 to 3 hour experience, at most a half-day park. but the ticket price did not reflect that. At an average cost of $40 per person, DisneyQuest was only $2 cheaper than getting into the regular Disney World parks at the time. Granted, Disney quickly realized their mistake and began to sell packages plus DisneyQuest ticket deals that made it much more palatable. The indoor theme park remained fairly popular in its initial years, especially on rainy days in Florida, which was always my family's backup plan in case we hit a patch of bad weather on a trip. DisneyQuest as a business model was factory made for Disney World property, but expansion of the brand was always the goal, with the hopes that the Disney machine could pump out more of these in proven markets around the United States. Their first stop, a city that had previously proven to be a not-so-successful market, with their Mickey's Kitchen fast food chain restaurant opening and shortly thereafter closing at a nearby mall, Chicago, Illinois was slated to get one more try as Disney's Midwest hub.
Hi everybody, I'm Janet Davies.
And I'm Jim Rose, and welcome to one of the most incredible places in Chicago this year. It's called DisneyQuest, and it's located on the corner of Ohio and Rush in Chicago, just 1 block west of Michigan Avenue.
In June of 1999, Disney would go all out for the grand opening of their Chicago DisneyQuest location, with a white tarp covering the entire front side of the building with the opening date, June 16th, painted on the side. Disney's local Chicago news affiliate, ABC7, produced a half-hour special for the occasion with one goal: to make the opening of this indoor theme park look like the biggest event Chicago has ever seen. This TV special featured a fictional broadcast alluding to something barreling towards downtown Chicago. I don't know if this was meant to be a meteorite or a hurricane, they were never clear about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Clark here with the latest on the incredible excitement that is overtaking Chicago. It looks as though the corner of Ohio and Rush could be very near the impact zone.
The program also featured appearances by Disney CEO Michael Eisner, the star of Disney's hottest sitcom at the time, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart, a ziplining Green Army Man from Toy Story, and a jetpacking Buzz Lightyear. The grand reveal culminated with the removal of this world's largest bedsheet and a fireworks display in the middle of skyscrapers in downtown Chicago that I'm sure would not be allowed to happen if the building opened a few years later.
Unbelievable. Looked like the whole building lit up on fire there at the end. What's your name? Where are you from?
This special caught the eye of many young, impressionable Disney fans in the Chicagoland area, one of which being myself. Right away, I knew I had to get there. Fun fact, the one and only time I had ever visited DisneyQuest was at the Chicago location in the summer of 2001. It was part of my 6th birthday weekend celebration, and I had such a blast that I convinced my mom to upgrade our tickets to season passes. Little did we know at the time, DisneyQuest Chicago was holding on by a thread. After just 2 years of low attendance and ticket sales barely covering the costs to operate the business, Disney decided to close DisneyQuest Chicago. Surprisingly, this was not due to the economic downturn in tourism following September 11th, 2001. DisneyQuest Chicago actually closed on September 4th of 2001. And let me tell you, 6-year-old me was pissed. Like I had a Disney park in my backyard and they bulldozed it. But years passed, I got over it, and honestly, I thought they did just bulldoze the building. That was until I did a little investigating on Google Street View. Maybe it was pure curiosity or the fact that I was already in Chicago for a comic convention, but you know I had to do it. We are approaching the corner of Rush and Ohio Street here in downtown Chicago, Illinois, and no, we are not here to shop for furniture. Well, maybe a little bit later just to get a look inside. That's right, this is the former Chicago DisneyQuest. See the resemblance? At the time of release in 2025, DisneyQuest Chicago is now a room and board. So I pretended I was looking for a new sofa and snooped around these former hallowed grounds. One step inside and holy shit, this still vaguely resembles the lobby of DisneyQuest.
We are so excited to be here at DisneyQuest, right, Bill?
Isn't this great, Tracy? You know, we ought to get on the cyber later and just see you guys later.
Later.
Look, the walls are in the same exact shape, just minus the ticket windows and cyber later. I'm not gonna lie, it felt really weird. Only because I knew what was formerly here, and no one else would even care. Even Ventureport, although very different, felt the same. Kind of. I explored almost every room, at least the ones that I could get to. After 20 minutes of perusing and really awkwardly filming myself around this furniture store, I finally worked up the nerve to talk to one of the employees. Turns out they were very aware of what this building used to be, mainly because a backstage employee stairwell still has DisneyQuest signage, as well as signatures from the closing cast members of Chicago DisneyQuest. And before you go there, no, I was told I could not even see it. But I can imagine it looks something like this. Leaving feeling a bit defeated, I recalled that I actually had been back here only a few years after DisneyQuest closed, only that time next door. See, Disney was not trying to buy themselves out of this multi-year lease. This would turn out to be the perfect spot for another Disney regional entertainment project, ESPN Zone. While I am sure there is a whole video's worth of content on the ESPN Zone restaurant chain, this is not the video for that. But I do recall one thing. I actually ate a few meals at this ESPN Zone as well. I vividly remember running back to my family's table to tell them that I just watched a rerun of the NBA Finals from the urinal.
If it goes well in Chicago, I guess it could go well anywhere. We have plans to build the next one in Philadelphia. Of course, we would love to be in New York and Detroit, etc. But we're just going to see how it does in Chicago. We're convinced. You know, they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I'm not sure about that. I think if you make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere. So that's why we're trying here.
With that mindset, it makes sense why they canceled their future expansions. Unfortunately for the company, the construction had already begun in Philadelphia. With the basement of the building being dug out in 2000, then the project was halted and shelved for the foreseeable future. Locals to this area are said to have started referring to the pit Disney dug for DisneyQuest Philadelphia as the, quote, Disney hole. I just can't imagine receiving directions to the nearest gas station and being told in a Philly accent to take a left at the Disney hole. After Chicago closed its doors, the Walt Disney Company struggled to find a reason to throw any more money at the endeavor. This included updates to the only remaining location at Disney World in Florida. And as the years went on, much like any type of video game system 5 to 10 years after its release, the games and attractions at DisneyQuest rapidly became dated. At the same time, the gaming industry had made leaps and bounds in the mid-2000s and 2010s. Just like the popular meme, you could actually have DisneyQuest at home, except without sharing your headset with thousands of strangers and probably better graphics too. It is shocking to me that DisneyQuest lasted as long as it did in Florida. I guess Disney wasn't worried about it losing too much money since they owned the land. And why would you fix such valuable real estate when you don't have a replacement ready to go? That was until 2017 when DisneyQuest would close its doors for good. But not without a heartfelt final day. Crowds of local Disney fans poured into DisneyQuest. For the first time since opening day, there was actually a line to get in. I'm sorry, but where were you all the last 19 years? Disney would soon announce its replacement, a new state-of-the-art sports-based attraction called the NBA Experience.
Disney and the NBA announced an official opening day for the NBA Experience at Disney Springs. It will officially open August 12th of this year, and the two-story facility will be packed with interactive elements and hands-on activities to make you feel like an NBA All-Star.
The NBA Experience would dazzle basketball fans of all ages for years to come. If by years you mean dog years. As much as DisneyQuest might be considered a failure, oh my god, did the NBA Experience fail even harder. I guess you'll have to stay tuned for part 2. Did you ever visit DisneyQuest? If so, let me know in the comment section down below. Huge shout out to Roosevelt's for sending me out to Chicago to my hometown convention, C2E2. If you've loved what I've been wearing in this video, be sure to follow the link below for 15% off your first order. Thank you to all my producers and pity viewers over on Patreon for behind-the-scenes content, exclusive vlogs, and early access to videos I post here on YouTube. You know exactly where to find it. To learn more on the history of Disney's failed fast food chain, Mickey's Kitchen, you could find that video right here. Or if you want to see the full history of the Disney Cruise Line, one of my absolute favorites, can be found right here. As always, I am Ryan. This has been For the Love of Theme Parks, and I will see you all real soon. Bye.